Welcome back. You're with News Live. Well, just before we went to the break, we played you that story of the DA laying charges of bribery, extortion and corruption against ANC MP Mduduzi Manana. This was earlier today at the Douglasdale police station. And of course, this relates to that charge that was brought against Manana by his domestic worker, Christine Wiro. He allegedly assaulted her and then offered her a 100,000 Rand bribe to drop that charge of assault that she then brought against him. And just to talk to us a bit more about this, I'm joined by spokesperson for the Commission for Gender Equality, Jabu Baloy. Mr. Baloy, welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us.
So you heard in that clip that we played earlier, just before the break, and we saw Terry Stander saying, you know, this is just another story of a man in power that thinks that he can sort of bribe his way out of trouble. And I mean, this just goes across the board for a lot of women that might experience assault of some kind, that there's a man in power and he thinks that he can use or wield his power against her.
And Natasha, it goes through power relations in this country. It goes through the patriarchal nature of our society, where there's an issue of entitlement. There's an issue of abuse of power by us male species, thinking that we'll get away with it all the time. It's the issue of not us changing and accepting that, you know, we need to treat each other as equal, as partners, wherever we are. As if you have got a domestic worker, you need to treat them with respect that they deserve. Particularly if that person is more even older than you, you need to treat them like they're your sister, your mother, your aunt, and then you talk to them with respect. And we see these kind of things mushrooming even in the workplace, both private and private sector, whereby people use their power to do what is wrong unto women, to bully them, to intimidate them, and sexual abuse them, which is very silent in nature. And worst part, you know, also harass them, because, you know, they think that, you know, it's their right to do whatever they want. And that we need to change that perception and that narrative in terms of us men, you know, behaving in society, because, you know, we need to ensure that, you know, whatever, you know, we expect from others, we need to do the same unto them.
It seems so entrenched in our society. And as the Commission for Gender Equality, are you seeing more and more reported cases? And what, in your opinion, needs to change that we can actually stop this? Because, I mean, just working in the news environment, I read a story at least once a day where it's an example of somebody like Christine Wiro, or an example of Jabulile Nhlapo, who has been murdered by her ex-boyfriend. So it seems to be more and more on the increase, and it needs to be stopped.
Yes, it needs to be stopped, and it needs us as society, all of us. We need to be hands on deck. At least you see it once a day. We see it so many stories a day.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of intervention that the Commission for Gender is doing. And at times, you know, Natasha, when you go to some of the private sector and government department, make a presentation on issues of sexual harassment, issue of bullying, intimidation, you'll be flooded with calls by people saying, you know, I can't come out, I need to be anonymous, you know, I know if should I report this, you know, I'll find myself wanting, you know, this is a big person. We need to tighten our HR system. We need to tighten our policies. We need the church to talk about this. We need the church to clamp down that regardless of the money that other people who are abusing their spouses, we know about them. We know we have got friends. We have got lots of girlfriends. We know they're abusing some of them. We know friends, you know, because of the egotism, you know, they do certain things unto women. But, you know, we're not saying anything because, you know, the onus is upon us, you know, as people, as men, to report, said, look, and teach these men. Let's make them agents of change. You know, I'd rather have a meek male around me than somebody who's a bully, whom even the behavior, you can see. Some of them, even their characters, you know, get out of hand even in the church situation. That, you know, you realize that this man, what about the family, if he can talk like this in front of everyone else? So those are the things that we need to do. And as men, we have got stockpiles. As men, we go to a drinking hole. You know, I always make this example about cigarette smokers. The way they respect one another, whether they know one another or not, they will always find a way of asking for a matches or a lighter or a cigarette if there's someone else. But that respect will be afforded to every male to say, let's talk in that same sentiment. Let's be friends and let's be a brother's keeper and talk to one another. Even if, you know, because, you know, the patriarchal society has taught us men to bottle things out. not to show emotions. And the moment we unleash our emotions, we start crying. You know, even when we're hurt, we must show emotion. That feminine side of us as men will help greatly to deal with issues. That, you know, when somebody we talk to, we need to be listened to. Let us also listen to someone else. Because some of these men, you know, the way they're bullies at home, you will be amazed when you see them at work, so clean up. They reduce their even working wife into object, you know, because they believe when they've married someone, that person has to be demeaned, has to be looked at. They say, it's my culture. Whose culture is it? Because we must do away with cultural things that seek to subject other women into a role of, you know, of inferior complex, and quoting the Bible wrongly that, you know, they say the woman will submit, even a girlfriend will submit. It's biblical. That is not so. So those are some of the things that, you know, we must demystify some of this myth, because it's just like, you know, every day you will hear someone saying, it's my culture. I said, how did it start? How were you told? Let's debrief you on that one. And we see lots of men coming on board said, can you help us? And we're building capacity. And we have institutions like Busonke Gender Justice that are doing so well, are working with us as a Commission for Gender Equality. And we have got good policemen within the police, men for Agent for Change. We have built capacity for them. What we need to stop talking, Natasha, in this country. We talk too much and we don't see action. You know, tomorrow you'll see an unprecedented case of someone who have done intimate partner killings. That person will be left scot-free, or maybe left with 14 years, left with 12 years. Where is the inconsistency? The judiciary must come and play its role. We cannot wait until someone dies. But the signs are there, and we need to clamp them down. And the minister have said, Mr. Masuta, we need to amend the Sexual Offences Act, the Criminal Procedure Act of 1977. I hope it's not going to take forever to do that. And if we can do that, Natasha, I'm telling you, South Africa will be a better society.
Well, let's bring it back to this particular case, this charge that Christine Wiro brought, and then the NPA saying that they're not going to allow it to be dropped. And the DA going today, and they're adding that charge of bribery to the charges already leveled against Manana. What's your role in this, and what do you make of this sort of this insinuated bribery that's been caught on that voice clip?
You are putting me on the spot, Natasha. You know, our role as the Commission for Gender Equality, we have met with Ms. Wiro twice. We have met with her on Wednesday last week. We met her on Friday last week. What we are doing, we are offering legal advice and monitoring what's going to happen, because we don't want Ms. Wiro to be accosted by people who will be phoning her non-stop and talking about this case, and also trying to influence her otherwise. What we are doing also is to ensure that, you know, she gets the best help that is possible. There are certain people who are doing other tasks I cannot speak on their behalf, but what we want to see at the end of the day, the ultimate goal, because we are at the sensitive stage now of the case, the ultimate goal, because even I got a briefing from the head of the legal department, is to see justice being served. And we're saying we're glad for the NPA not to allow this case to be withdrawn, because oftentimes, not Mrs. Wiro only, the victims or survivors of gender-based violence withdraw these cases, and it defeats the purpose of them lodging these cases. We want these people to show that the law of this country does work for ordinary Joseph on the street, work for the ordinary Mandlamin on the street, that everyone is subjected to the laws of this country and justice should be served regardless of the position. And that's what we want to see being done here, and we'll continue in our endeavor as a Commission for Gender Equality to assist Mrs. Wiro wherever possible.
Jabu, thanks so much. We'll leave it there for now. Spokesperson for the Center for Gender Equality, Jabu Baloy, with me in studio.
Most thank you. Bye.